Okay, in these next few examples, we are going to be using inverse properties to find compositions of functions. Remember from section or standard 3.5 when we did inverses, if you take the composition of a function and its inverse, those two functions will cancel each other out and just leave the inside input. The same works if you compose an inverse with its given function. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind when we're doing these with trig functions is that these have special restrictions on their domains, which I have written down on the right. So go ahead and take a moment to write those down, pause the video if you need to. So now if we look at number 48, we're doing tangent of arctangent of 45. So at this point, we don't know what arctangent of 45 is, but we know that 45 does fall in the domain of arctangent, which is between negative infinity and infinity. So since that 45 falls in the domain, we can find that arctangent. But since we're plugging arctangent into tangent, those inverse properties will cancel out, and our final answer will be 45. The same thing is true on number 50. We have arc sine of negative 0.2 first. We don't know what that is, but we know that negative 0.2 does fall in the domain of arc sine, which is negative 1 to 1. So we could actually find it. But since we're turning around and taking sine of that arc sine, it will cancel out and just leave negative 0.2. Now, number 52 is a little different. Our inside function is cosine of 7 pi over 2. So let's think about our unit circle and figure that out. 7 pi over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is actually 3 pi over 2. And so this is actually finding arc cosine of cosine of 3 pi over 2. We know that at 3 pi over 2, x is 0 and y is negative 1. And for cosine, cosine is x. So we know this is going to be arc cosine of 0. So if I'm trying to figure out arc cosine of 0, I know that arc cosine goes from 0 to pi in my unit circle. And we know the only place on that unit circle where cosine is 0 is here at this coordinate, 0, 1. And that angle is pi over 2. So therefore, this final answer is pi over 2. So if you can figure out that inner value, you should. So let's make a note. If you can figure out inner function, do that first. If not, then usually you should be able to just use properties of inverses to cancel them out.